So, you want to cut the cord, huh? Well, if you're a little late to the party and you've been clinging to your cable or satellite subscription up to now, it can be a little intimidating. There are a lot of options out there, which is awesome, but yeah, a little intimidating. So, today we're going to address the basics of cutting the cord. Now, if you've been subscribed to this channel for a while, you're probably not a beginner cord cutter. I understand that. But I want you to bookmark this video and maybe share it with somebody who hasn't yet cut the cord and wants to and is maybe a little overwhelmed by the idea. I know I'm going to be sharing it with my parents. Again. And also, I want you to watch through and offer your opinions in the comments afterward. There's a lot of good discussion to be had on this topic, okay? So yes, hit the comments. Anyway, for the rest of you, today I'm walking through the basics, like I said, of cutting the cord. And I will give you some good questions to ask yourself before you get started. And I'm going to give some concrete advice for what devices and apps to get. So let's dive in. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. If you find this video helpful, I would appreciate a like and subscribe if you appreciate what we do. This is gonna be a whole series on cord cutting. This is just the beginning of it. I'll get into advanced stuff and other devices you can add to the mix a little bit later. But for today, the basics. All right, so the first thing you need to do is ask yourself a few questions. First of all, is my internet up to the task? Okay, luckily this one's fairly simple. If, for whatever reason, you're still on dial-up internet, cutting the TV cord probably isn't gonna happen. But for the rest of you, you should be able to do it. Yes, even you, satellite internet people, I see you, I understand. But one screen streaming video in HD, so Netflix or Hulu or whatever, streaming in HD will need about 5 megabits per second of internet speed. 2 screens would be 10 megabits per second and so on. Now, the average internet speed in the US right now is just under 20 megabits per second. So if you're close to that or above it, you should be all right. Now, you won't be streaming in 4K, which requires 25 megabits per second, but really that's okay. Honestly, HD is pretty darn good. The second question you need to ask yourself is, what is your budget? Now, I'm assuming, like most people who cut the cord, you're coming to this trying to save some money. Possible you have some other motivations, like you want to watch that great new show on HBO Now or Max or whatever they call it these days. But most of us are in this simply to save some money because the average cable package right now in the US is $217 a month. Now, to be fair, that is for TV and internet, usually as a bundle there. The average internet-only package, though, is around $60 a month. Ooh, that's a lot lower. So let's say you're around the average, that $60 a month for internet. You could earmark $40 for TV content, all this streaming content, and still stay under $100 a month. That's a lot of savings over what you had before. Now, obviously your budget and your preferences are gonna be different depending on your situation, but budget-wise, you just gotta find your number. Is it $30 a month, 40, 80? Knowing how much you're willing to pay for TV is gonna come in handy, especially in a few minutes when we talk about streaming apps. But the last question I want you to ask yourself is, how do I like to consume my movies and shows? Do I like live or on demand? Well, what's the difference? Live TV is what you're used to with cable or satellite TV. Shows scheduled at a certain time and you need to watch it at that time or maybe use a DVR to record it. On demand would be something like Netflix. There's a bunch of stuff available for you to watch whenever you want. So, going back to the budget issue, if you want live TV, here's the deal. You're gonna pay for it. It's expensive. If you wanna save money, you can stick with on-demand stuff. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, and so on. All right, now let's talk about the devices that you need to consider. Really, you've got 2 choices, Roku or Amazon. Yes, there are other choices, but the other choices aren't quite as good for most people. Chromecast seems to be losing a lot of steam and a lot of support, and the Apple TV and Nvidia Shield are really great devices, but they're relatively expensive and they're pretty niche. They're meant for a really specific audience. Okay, so Roku and Amazon Fire are the best for a wide audience. In fact, together they make up about 70% of the streaming device market. And there's a big reason for that. They are pretty great, but they're not free. You're gonna count on about 40 or 50 bucks for a decent device in either lineup. Or if you're in the market to just buy a new TV, then you can go for a budget TV. The best budget ones these days tend to have either Roku or Fire TV built right in. Now, both of those platforms have their strengths and weaknesses, and this is not a full-on Roku versus Amazon video, so I'm going to keep this brief. But by the way, I do have longer videos explaining both of those platforms, so just check the description below, I'll link to those. Anyway, keeping it simple, here's the deal. Roku is better for simplicity. It's easy to navigate, it's easy to use, it has a brand agnostic approach, meaning it's not going to push content from Amazon or Apple or whatever other service you might see out there. Amazon Fire TV, on the other hand, it's a little bit more cluttered as an interface, and so it has a slightly steeper learning curve just trying to navigate that. And while it does push you toward Amazon content, obviously, because it's an Amazon device, that might not necessarily be such a bad thing, and I'm going to explain why that is in just a moment. So, while my heart is with Roku, if it's literally your first device, I would go Amazon Fire on this one. And the reason why basically comes down to apps and content. So let's talk about that next. If you're trying to figure out what apps you want to pay for, there are two that I would say are close to non-negotiable: Netflix and Amazon Prime Video. Now, obviously, some people are going to quibble with that statement, which is fine. I will see you in the comments. But anyway, Netflix is Netflix. Almost everyone's got it, and not for no reason. It is great. But I include Amazon Prime Video in this because it comes with an Amazon Prime membership. So you come for the free shipping and you stay for the giant catalog of movies and shows. If you're not a Prime subscriber and you refuse to be one, then go back to that devices portion that I just did and swap in the Roku. It's probably the better bet in that case. But if you combine Prime Video with an Amazon Fire device, you'll get much better mileage out of Fire TV's recommendation algorithm, since it obviously tends to recommend Amazon Prime content. So the combo, especially for a beginner, the combo of an Amazon device plus Amazon content will be really nice to start your cord cutting journey. Once we get outside of Netflix and Prime Video, there are 1,001 streaming apps out there. You've got Disney+, Hulu, CBS All Access, and on and on and on. And there are some amazing free apps out there as well. I've got lists of the best free apps for both Amazon Fire and Roku, again, down in the description, so make sure you check those out. In fact, you could get rid of every paid service. Just go with free options and you would still have more content at your fingertips than you could ever watch. What a world, huh? And then, of course, I shouldn't forget the live TV options. If you do want live TV, then you're gonna be looking at something like Sling TV, Hulu Live, YouTube TV, and that sort of service. Now, these services are pretty great, and they often do a good job of mimicking your cable or satellite experience if that's what you're after, for a price. Like I said earlier, they are expensive, and this is where that budget comes in handy. As long as you're not adding live TV to the mix, 30 or 40 bucks will go pretty far in streaming land. Live TV though, well, that's a different story. It starts around 20 bucks a month for the most bare bones service out there, which is Philo, and it goes all the way up to $80 a month or more for AT&T TV Now. Maybe not so attractive if you're in this to save money. There's no getting around it. You're going to pay a bunch for live TV. With one exception actually, which brings me to my final topic, cord cutting accessories. Luckily, this is gonna be a super simple one. I'll have a lot of great accessories to recommend when I do an advanced cord cutting video, but for the basics, all you need is one of these. It's an HD antenna. For about 20 or 30 bucks, an HD antenna will pick up the local channels that are still being broadcast over the airwaves, just like they have been since TV was invented. It won't get you cable news or ESPN or whatever other cable channels you like, but it will get you your local channels for no extra cost, assuming of course that you're within range of a transmitter. If you want to learn more about which antennas are good options and how to get the most out of your antenna, yeah, you guessed it, I've got links to those videos in the description, so please go check that out. So there you have it. Snag an antenna, choose a device and a couple of apps, and you're off to the races. Cutting the cord doesn't have to be all that intimidating if you just start with a few basics and build from there. And like I said, I will continue this series with an advanced cord cutting video, so make sure you're subscribed for that when it comes out in a week or two. Now, you know what to do. Hit that like button, subscribe, Venmo me tons of cash. All are perfectly acceptable forms of thanks. You can find me on Venmo with my personal email address,